on the menu, boys.
Potatoes, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Woo!
Now and never come back.
You heard it up top, Normies. We are back for another episode in our months-long exploration of the Lord of the Rings franchise, returning like two glistening towers. That's right. We're talking Two Towers on this week's episode with your hosts. Now, last week you had my brother here, Colin. I'm Colin too.
I'll be Micah Gorn.
Leg Joe Loss.
Oh,
Ooh.
that's pretty good. And
There we go.
we're here joined, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube live. Speaking of the Two Towers, it's almost like the Mega Powers, the greatest tag teams in pro wrestling history. But special guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Beardo Swaggins, and I can simply talk into Mordor.
Oh,
Wow.
he can simply talk
There we
right
go.
into it. Wow, that's incredible. My cousin, friend of the show, been on the Final Fantasy VII Remake episode. Happy
Thank
to
you
have
for
him
having
here.
me back.
Yeah, and big Lord of the Rings, big Hobbit fan, and he happened to be in town for the Two Towers, and that's we're going to get after it. Very excited to have you.
Very
here.
happy
Thank
to
for
have
having
you.
me back. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess here's a question then. Well, you're here. We kind of went over our histories with Lord of the Rings as a franchise, maybe the book series, if we read them or not. So for you, what's kind of your background on Tolkien in general, Lord of the Rings, and Hobbitses and Peter
On
Jackson?
Tolkien in general, how I got started was my aunt had a VHS of the Hobbit cartoon. That was my first.
Dope.
The Rankin Bass one, right?
That was my first step into all of it. Then after that, we read that everyone had to read the Lord of the Rings
In school.
when you're high school and stuff. So I read that, read The Hobbit,
Mm-hmm.
and then when the movies came out, I actually missed the theatrical release because I was in the military at the time. But then we caught them all three as I came back. But for the most part, my only experience inside that universe for most of my childhood was just that Hobbit cartoon. That was really it. And then it wasn't until into my 20s when I started actually watching the movies, and it was just those movies.
Yeah, we spoke before, Fellowship of the Ring, just how crazy of a coincidence it is that everything from set design, etc., went correctly, and there was really nothing that went wrong. It's kind of a miracle, and that 3 of them got made. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Chris,
So,
did you evolve? Did you kind of follow the track we did of, extended editions only, obsessing
Yeah.
over the making of, the process and craft?
I have the 30-discer, the extended. It's,
Oh my god!
it's
Load it up.
usually twice to 3 times a year I'll drag my wife along to Mordor. I'll make her watch all 6 in a 2 or 3 day period. But bless her heart, that's a woman that loves me. She sits and she watches it, and it was actually funny when they were making the orcs. It was great because I could tell the wheels were spinning in her head, in part 1, and she asked, hey, well, what's the deal with the orcs? What race are they? And literally, he talks about them being the elves right after that. So I was like, oh, she's engaged. Finally, after like 2 times of watching all these, finally I've got her into it.
That's a
So-
good Sam you got with you, though. She's
Yeah.
willing to take that trip to Mordor, like you
Oh yeah,
say.
she'll carry me.
I can't watch it for you, but I can watch it with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
I was just asking this too before you guys jumped on, but I said to Joe, who did the extended edition on this one as well, if his wife
wow.
watched as well, and you said she did too, Joe. So this is kind of one for maybe
Congrats.
hanging out with the wife too.
Exactly. It's so meaty. I mean, there is.
Yeah, we'll have to get into it once we get into the episode proper. But have you ever seen the theatrical versions, or has it only been extendo
The funny
DVDs?
thing is that's how I tricked her, right? So I was like, the theatrical versions were on sale for on Christmas for like $30 for all 6. So I got them. It's like, oh, let's watch these movies. I know what they are. She watched them, and then when she started asking questions, I was like, okay, I'm buying all 6 stendos, and then I'm gonna hit her with the lore now. So then, but gracious as love is, she really trucked it out with me, and I'm lucky enough to have her enjoy what I enjoy too. watch all the
Amazing.
extended. So
Man.
yeah, she's actually seen the extended. She's seen theatrical and extended.
I thought you were going to say, you
Damn.
said, here's the theatrical, but you put in the discs for extended. It just, the old switcheroo.
Just rode right with it.
Yeah. Well, Joe, then, how about you? You didn't watch the extended last time. What's your kind of history with Two Towers, watching in the theaters? What, where are you at?
Yeah, so sitting down, I watched this one immediately after we talked about Fellowship of the Ring, and realized everything that I thought happened in the Two Towers is either at the end of Fellowship or the beginning of Return of the King.
Like Moria.
I did not remember much of this movie at all. I've never seen any of the extended, so I did the extended for Two Towers. The whole thing was like, I don't know if maybe if I'd seen the theatrical more, like I'd be able to tell the difference, but no, I didn't remember like anything from this movie.
Really?
I
Oh,
thought they
wow.
were the other movies.
Nice.
Even Helm's Deep was a Return of the King battle to you?
I thought, yeah,
It opens
no,
down
literally,
there.
like,
That's how it opens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just start.
And I
it's a
wouldn't
very
be,
exciting beginning.
Legolas slides. It all makes
Yeah.
sense.
or some of the things like that I love about it didn't even happen. Like, I guess
Well, I
we'll
can't
see
wait
when
to
we
hear
get to
more
Return of
about
Kings
that.
if any of it's real.
Yeah, maybe you've never
But no,
seen
like
these at
I
all.
was surprised at this one. Like I did not remember it as well as I thought I did.
Okay. Colin, how about you then? The Two Towers.
That's blowing my mind. Again, this was fully the point where it was like, you're in it, little Colin. I was really thinking about you during this one, Mike. A big Christmas gift around this time when Two Towers was coming out. The Bestiary, J.R.R. Tolkien's Bestiary, the guide of just all the critters and creatures in the Middle Earth universe. Because I was so into the Ents.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this movie. I think it's great.
Yay.
Joe, that's interesting. Yeah, I kind of agree with you in the stuff where I watched it this time and I was like, oh, I don't remember a lot of it. I disagree in the fact of watching the extended edition this time, which is 4 hours fucking long, as they all are. The moments where it's like, oh, Sam, you brought salt, or are we going to roast chickens? And those conversations, I was like, no, there's no way I've ever seen this before. This is stretched out material. And I'm loving it. Like, this is great.
It's the finest salt in all the Shire, You can't lose that. It would be a shame. For me, I think we mentioned on the last episode, growing up watching these, I always thought Two Towers was my favorite. Fellowship had a really strong impression on me rewatching it because of how good it sets up the world. So up to this point, not talking about Two Towers, I think Moria is my favorite sequence of any of them so far
Sure.
on the rewatch, although I did enjoy much of this tremendously. And the number of memes in this one, I think, outnumbers, despite One Does Not Simply March. This might have more of them. And we'll get into
Wow.
the meat and potatoes of the episode, I think, right after this. Ooh, got 'em. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Coming up next, Lord of the Rings, The Towers That Were Two.
We're back. We're talking Lord of the Rings. We're talking the Two Towers here on Normies Like Us. And Chris, I'll throw it to you first. I'll just say, my first exposure to was that Rankin Bass Hobbit movie. And as a kid, I found that film very frustrating, and I wonder if you did too, like reading the books, and you guys as well, of, Gandalf's role in The Hobbit is like, oh, I pushed you guys together. Here's a thief. Go out and do it. And I would just get frustrated. Gandalf seemed like such a cool character. I always just wanted him to be present. I wanted to be in it. Now, The Two Towers, this is a movie, Chris, where Gandalf does shit through this whole motherfucker. Is he your favorite character? Is this kind of a standout?
Gandalf he's one of my favorites, but I gotta say, like, the show stealer for me, even though it's so gapped out, it's still Sam. Just those touching moments.
Wow.
It's just, yeah, like
Yes.
because in the extended, but like you were talking about earlier, with just those little extra tidbits of their relationship, for me, like I know it just sounds kind of weird, but like the male bonding of it just kind of reminded me a lot of like the relationships I had with friends in the Marine Corps and in war and stuff like that. So that's a kind of a parallel that hit me really home, even though like Gandalf is right up there. I'd put him right at number 2 because how could you not? He
Come on.
carries so much of every scene away from them. So I wholeheartedly agree with, like, as far as this movie over the series, he's probably the GOAT in that one. But Sam always steals it for me. Sam always steals it for me emotionally.
I love it. That's the best take. I was going bombastic.
Yeah.
I thought we'd start with the big character, but you to go straight to the heart, and you're right. Like, when Sam has the tears in his eyes at the end, like, literally at watching it, I'm just like, this is the greatest movie ever made. But it's so... Mike said the same thing last week. You love following the trail of Sam.
I did say, yeah, Sam is like probably the heartbeat of the series, the trilogy, really. You know, and parallels with Tolkien, like it's like you have somebody from your hometown who goes with you on this crazy journey, and like the friendship and the bond. And we've said, I think, in Fellowship, these movies are all about like male relationships and showing them in positive ways, and that's important to have that. Sam's great, and Gandalf has a lot of character growth in this movie, and you get a lot of the trio of Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. So it's just a lot of groups of dudes being dudes running around, you know, Treebeard, Pippin, and Merry, just groups of dudes bonding, hanging out, sharing stories, you know. It's a good time.
But surely this first scene, Joe, this is where you're conflating it to the last one. The fact that we get the replay, we see it go through. He's fighting the Balrog in hell. We're starting with the action with Gandalf. It's dope, right?
It is.
Oh yeah, no, I love the opening, but again, like I thought, for some reason I had a different version of the ending of the Fellowship, and you know, I thought that's how we opened the Two Towers, not like in a replay at all, just like that's what I thought the first scene to kick it all off was. So like seeing it now, I was like, oh okay, I did just watch this last week, so it feels a little like rehashing, but I'm sure in theaters it would be super exciting. Like I don't know, this one kind of lost me a little bit, I'll be honest. Like I was not too into some of the journeys in this one.
I mean, as a middle movie, it is long. Even though, like, we love it, you know, me and Chris were watching it together. It's long. We love the extendos, but there'd be times where, like, we watched 2 hours of this and we still haven't, like, gotten to key plot points. I don't care though. I'll live in this world, right, Colin? How do you feel? And I think that opening's really strong too. If you want to talk about how what you felt there.
But the middle movie curse, Mike, you bring up is
Could
it?
be.
You know, none of us would say Back to the Future 2 is our favorite. All of us might say Empire is our favorite Star Wars. Where does it fall on that spectrum to you guys? I even want to ask first.
Second movie,
For-
Curse.
I think it with the extended, for me personally, with all the extra things it adds, I would say it holds up very well as quite possibly my favorite out of the three. And like I said, I know you guys are going to do a whole episode on part three, so I won't
I
dive
agree
in.
so
I won't,
far.
I won't dive into that or anything. But it just with so much that's added, like you was talking about the male relationships. You know, you even see they even develop a relationship with Smeagol. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
there's
Sure.
it's so thick and meaty with just the layers of character development. I really like it. So I would say, dare I say, you know, it's my favorite of the three.
Wow.
Well, maybe there might be the least plot happening, potentially, because it's the middle, and then you get the big conclusions, I guess, next. There's the
Yeah.
most character development happening here. Remember Legolas, how he never said a word to Frodo, and we knew nothing about him in Fellowship? Now we're getting those relationships expanded, and that's what I think the strength of this movie is. You can dive in, especially extended, into extreme detail on, like I said, all these different groups that we have working towards a common goal or trying to stop our heroes. It's still, you know, Grima, Wormtongue, and Saruman. It's all in there, and you get the meat of the sandwich, I think, as Chris is trying to allude to. But yeah, I think the
I love
bread,
that.
though, this first toasted bread of the Balrog Gandalf is pretty badass.
Incredible.
Sure is.
Yeah, and maybe in that metaphor, Mike, the lettuce is the democracy of trees, Joe. I could see that kind of slowing this film down a little bit, but you're still going to get some bacon. You know, you're going to get Helm's Deep. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Helm's Deep felt a lot shorter than I remembered it. Like I don't know. Like for some reason I had in my head like the second hour was Helm's Deep and there was other stuff going on, but that was that. And like I kept watching the runtime. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a lot tighter than I remembered. And it really is just like scene to or you know beat to beat of that sequence. There's all bangers. It's all killer, no filler for like this still like 20 to 30 minute sequence.
Yeah.
It is quite impressive, and just like the scale, the scope, the weather effects, it feels almost Kurosawan when the rain starts falling, and yeah, you know, it's pretty
Beautiful.
Then the orc with a dream, you know, he just wanted to get in there with his torch, you know, and so
Well, and to set it up, you know, like I mean, just sort of, would you like a box to stand on? I mean, how are you going to start out with, like, that's how you're going to kick that off?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so
This
strong.
movie is so funny, Chris. Unlike, I love the Marvel movies, unlike the Marvel movies where all the humor is snarky line, snarky line, snarky line, there is character comedy in this film that gets developed so well of Gimli's height, of course, would be a weird thing you would have to point out in the battle. Or
Yeah.
them just having the personal kill count and banter back and forth. It's wonderful.
Yeah, even stuff with Smeagol, like, because
Yeah.
we're starting this movie out with them continuing their journey, right? And they basically meet up with Smeagol. Like Joe said, hey, there's this guy following
Yeah,
us.
just following us
You-
around.
You
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
your wonderful payoff, Joe. Finally, we meet the
Yeah.
greatest character ever, Smeagol.
He
Yes.
just like rolls up. He's like, "I have a cigarette." Like that is what it's like. He's
Yeah,
just
jump-
coming around and like
we ran into him
he's
this
just gonna
weekend.
follow him around.
Yeah. But it starts out that way, but then there's things where we have I think this is the greatest way to bring up the characters, the Smeagol versus Gollum scene, the mirror image where we're learning that there's two personalities here. One is very negative and hateful and angry and abusive towards the other, that's saying it's worthless, and the one doesn't maybe necessarily want to do evil but was corrupted by the ring. And so there's this weird kind of dynamic, and you learn to sympathize with the character, which makes the struggle that Sam and Frodo have with how to deal with him that much more effective, because we as an audience are kind of conflicted as well.
Yeah, and it develops
Incredible.
a relationship to where the point with, I am bound to him and he's bound to me. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but yeah, exactly, to where he actually he is his master and he sees him as they could both almost share the precious. It feels like at times like is he really with him all the way here? Like you really feel that, and they convey it very well in the film.
And it's a CG guy.
Exactly.
Mike, it's a CG guy. We're introducing Andy Serkis here as Gollum. Joe loved him climbing in the background, but really in the first one, all we saw was the torture scene arm, heard a voice off screen. Boom. We're getting a huge character in the Lord of the Rings universe. Chris, I asked Joe this last time. I'm going to ask you right now. You said you watch these a lot. You watch them a couple times a year. I'm sure it's not a non-fresh viewing, but it's 2021. What did you think of Gollum, the entire effects and just execution as a character?
I have said it.
2012.
I said it to him just when we started watching it, just with the opening scenes, the Balrog, all that stuff. This, you can quote me and I'll take it. I'll die on this hill. This is just like Jurassic Park with the puppets. I don't think it'll never be outgrown, man. It's so beautiful. It's so visually stunning and nothing's choppy. I mean, yeah, there's some CGI stuff with Legolas, but I mean, he's supposed to move around like that anyway. So like, yeah, it's beautiful,
magic.
and he's absolutely Gollum. He is precious. He's gorgeous in the movie. Like, and he's still today he is. Yes, it's visually stunning. Yes.
I think going back to the Star Wars episodes we did a couple years ago during the November-December split, definitely this is the same time we had a Jar-Jar. Joe, what holds up more? Jar-Jar Binks
Yeah,
or
I mean
Gollum?
it's pretty obvious, right? Like,
Yeah.
and beyond Gollum, I think like Treebeard, the Balrog, all of the creature designs in this hold up so well that I think that Jurassic Park comparison, I love that, man. That is something I think you could easily put in like a pillar of movies where it's like unparalleled. You just can't beat it.
Yeah, and Joe, you brought up last time about how Weta also extends into the toy world, where the people creating these creatures are designing the sculpts. And Colin, you said, oh, it's like almost a money-saving thing. We'll just hire Peter Jackson. He's got Weta Workshop, and we'll save money. But they did a better job than George Lucas's company did with Jar Jar.
Yeah.
So that was the right move. I mean, the right
That's
company for
so
the job.
true. ILM would have been tied up at the moment, making the goofiest performer of all time. Now, we talked special features stuff last time, too. Not something you'd hear on special features, but you see a lot of internet chatter on this. That Jar Jar and Smeagol / Gollum are a little closer to the Roger Rabbit spectrum of special effect opposed to the Planet of the Ape, in that they're not really mo-capped per se, as much as sort of like a rotoscope performance over. To that, I would say, you don't get close-ups of Roger Rabbit in that movie. You get close-ups in Smeagol's eyes where he is emoting in this film.
They let him
Yeah.
play two characters in the same scene, and he carries it as a computer boy.
There's literally there's no feeling like the Jar Jar in the Roger Rabbit where it's a puppet in front of everything. It's you're engaged. You know, you're engaged the whole time, and yeah, it's beautiful.
Somehow they bypass the uncanny valley, but
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the back and forth, the tragic character Frodo sees kind of what his fate could be, and that's why I said the retcon of making Gollum a Hobbit, because I don't think that was in the book of the Hobbit, right? It's like now Frodo sees what is at stake for him, and he has to pity this creature because he has to hope that he can come back and be redeemed after what he's going to go through.
Now, Mike, that is so interesting that you say hope, that you say redemption.
Hope.
I'm laughing. To me, Frodo is in that position where he
He falls
Sam's his
down a
friend from
lot.
high school. Well, yeah, he does. He wants to drop that ring.
Yeah.
But Sam's that friend from high school. Smeagol's that new friend in college. Sam's just jealous. He's got that whole dynamic going on.
Mm-hmm.
But to what you just said about faith and redemption, the subtext of this entire film, and I just want to get this out real quick, and why I think this movie rules. You get it in Aragorn, you get it in Legolas, you get it in Frodo. All of these characters are a pin's drop away from losing faith of the situation that they're in, but still they push forward and through with it. Now, in a bad writing circumstance, and I don't want to shit on this movie, JK, normie listeners, you know I love to. If you like this movie, that's totally up to you. Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is a movie with no subtext that literally just has Batman saying, have faith, Alfred. We need to have faith in this situation. We need to believe in ourselves. It's all about faith. It's all about trust. We have to trust Superman, faith this, faith that. He wants to get it out. That's what that movie's about, that it's about good people having faith to stay good. The reason Two Towers is about that, and you know it is, without subtlety in any way, or with subtlety, I'm sorry, without overtness, is lines where Legolas is speaking in Elvish, you'll die with them, or you'll die if you stay here. Then I'll die with them, Aragorn replies. He's not saying we need to trust these people. You're seeing them literally have this storm of an internal maelstrom of emotion just seething underneath their person. And they deliver lines that are not only impactful and important, but have nothing to do with that. They play away from it. And it's just so goddamn well written. And it's just so executed so fucking well. A movie with 4 writers for it. I don't know how they pull it off.
Yeah, most movies need at least 7
Yeah.
nowadays, right?
And then just him simply saying, "I will die as one of them,"
Oh, I love it.
in man speak to be like, "Hey, man, I'm Numenorian. Don't forget.
And lets
That's it, and
everybody else hear him,
yeah,
too.
like and lets them hear him that he's relating as a leader that they were leading this situation.
Making the
so
choice.
you can't quit.
I think that's a big theme of this, and that even with some of the new characters, like you said, Colin, everyone needs to. There's a lot of redemption in this. Let's talk Gandalf really quick.
Yes.
He started out as the stoner who shows up late to the birthday party, just wants to shoot off fireworks, and then he loses to Saruman. All of a sudden, his crossing the threshold is fly, you fools. And then he defeats the Balrog, becomes Gandalf the White, and defeats Saruman for the first time. He's now ascending and taking responsibility, reaching out to the kings of men to get them on board. Like he's now stepping up, putting down the pipe. And I don't know if we see him smoke from this point on in the trilogy.
We get some other characters doing it. Mike,
There's a
so
weed
much
watch.
happens in this
Yeah.
movie that you forget that our lead Oscar-nominated actor is reborn in the first act, and by the third act, he's the first person down a hill on a horse fighting people on a sword. And you're just like, this is madness.
It's a 2-hour first act.
And that's what I
but
like about it. Like you were talking about how he's kind of the goat of the movie because it's like that theme of you can't just start something and walk away. Like you can't just start a bunch of crap. Like start these people on the way and then fly.
He has his
like,
hand in all of it.
Yeah, you cannot be outside of it at this point. It's too big that everyone has to be involved. I think
And
that
that's
was
what
when he
Pippin and
stepped
Merry say to each other, Chris, literally when he says, but if we go back to the Shire, that means one day there won't be a Shire to go back to. And you're just
Exactly.
like, Jesus Christ, all of
It's so
these people
strong.
are making the most important decisions in their lives at this exact moment. This movie rules.
It is so strong.
Yeah. What about some of these new characters, Joe? You know, we get the introduction of Rohan and the Rohirrim and Edoras, right? Does any of that work for you? Those
Making me
words,
laugh.
those nouns?
Yeah, no, I don't care about any of that. Like
Rohan!
Get out of here.
excluding Gollum, who, you know, like technically was in the first one. I don't like
Yeah.
any one of these new characters.
Really?
I could leave every one of them behind.
You don't like
Bean's
inserted female
brother.
character for triangle drama?
All right, I
like
like
that.
Eowyn, man. Go ahead, Joe.
I-
You say your piece.
I extra don't need Sean Bean's brother. Like, I got enough people to care about already. I just don't.
Again,
don't.
redemption.
I'm sorry.
It's such a good
Denethor.
redemption arc.
Yes.
I wouldn't.
Crazy.
You have enough of it in there already. I don't need. Like, you could just take that story out, and everything that we've talked about so far still plays and still works. The movie's just 45 minutes short.
But then Eowyn doesn't get the love payoff either with someone who understands the struggle of being a sibling in royalty.
That's-
Yeah, I guess.
Payoff.
All right, so strong disagree,
I'm not saying
Joe.
it doesn't pay off or anything like that. It's just
You don't need it.
I don't need it.
doesn't
I don't
do it
need
for
it.
you.
Man. Yeah.
I can respect-
Yeah, it's
I can
like,
respect that.
I got a
Like-
pastrami sandwich and there's too much fucking pastrami on it, so I'm just gonna take half that and put it away anyway. Like,
Oh, but
just
it's
don't give it
good.
to me
It's
then.
salty and good.
I want all the
It's too much.
pastrami. So if you had to
Enough
cut
slices.
Treebeard's scenes or Faramir's scenes, which would you cut first?
I think I would cut Paramir's. I think I'd keep
Wow.
Treebeard.
Well,
It
even
gives
yeah.
Merry and Pippin something to do, and I like
But-
Merry and Pippin.
Even in the fountain, where he has to express really how important Gollum is to the mission, because I mean,
That
like
Yeah.
Gollum is equally important as to getting
So
him there.
juicy sweet. I only wish to
So
catch a
juicy,
fish.
Sweet.
That could have, anyone else could be like, you know, that could have been Legolas. That could have been any
Oh,
other character. To
no,
be like,
the tension.
"Hey, I'll put a
No,
bullet right in
no.
this guy's head right now," and Frodo being like, "No."
Should have been
Like the
Hawkeye.
moment
But
it still works to me.
But it sets up Sam yelling at him about, you know, why his brother died, you know?
For me, the Boromir tie-in.
yeah, no, it all
Yeah.
works. It all pays
Yeah.
off. It's all
Yeah.
great. It's
Well,
just they're not my bag, and that's where you start to lose me a little
And
bit.
we
you know?
have established that fantasy is generally not the wheelhouse for Joe. So I do appreciate
I
you.
was not a Hobbit household. These movies, theatrical cut, are the
Yeah.
only experience I have until like this is definitely my first rewatch in at least 8 years.
Well, I
Wow.
appreciate you
Yeah, the
exposing
commitment.
yourself to the extended edition
Yeah.
on this.
That's
despite all that.
crazy.
Yeah, and I respect your opinion and understand that it doesn't necessarily work. Colin, what do you think
Well,
about
it
some of the new
works.
characters?
It's just
well,
you don't need
you
it.
don't want it. It's too much pastrami in the sandwich. Yeah.
I just want to shout out David Wenham, the actor who plays Faramir too, to say his name. Chris, that I don't even think I've said on this podcast in the last one, I don't think I've ever understood what these movies are actually ever about plot wise. But just the scene in the well with him, and where he's like, I mean, it's the mind game of every spy movie, you know, where the spy master takes you somewhere and goes, see these innocents, I'm about to kill them. What do you think about that, James Bond? James Bond's like, I don't think anything about that. And you're like, oh my God, what's he gonna do in this moment? I'm on the edge of my seat. I just think, you know, Elijah Wood, I just think is like the unsung hero of this thing. He's just like fucking killing it with his innocence too. And the scene where he does confront him and learns, you know, I found my brother's horn cleft in twain. Obviously he's dead. I felt it. How did he die, sir? You know, say so. It's just, you're just with that kid the whole fucking way. I don't know.
Yeah, again, it's another redemption arc. Faramir represents the redemption of the race of men, where Boromir failed, where Denethor failed. He lets
He's gonna
Frodo
do the
go.
right thing.
He has the ring of power within his grasp, and he lets him go because he did what his brother
Yeah,
couldn't.
it's
It's good, but it's too much meat.
It's good.
Yeah.
But
Aragorn's already doing that in the story. Again,
He is
it's
actually,
great.
yeah.
But
True.
like, there's
You're
just
so
too
right.
Much fucking
So right, Mike.
pastrami. Save
There-
some of
there's
it
just
for another day. Eat it with eggs.
beautiful poetry of the fact that you literally have Kate Blanchett, like the greatest actress of all time, narrating that action out and being like, if he had done this, all the world would be destroyed. But this is the point of the movie, you see. And I'm like, oh, that's right. This is the point of the movie, Kate Blanchett. You're amazing.
It feels like Aragorn's arc in this, Faramir is strictly about the race of men, but Aragorn is in between. He's the intermediary between the elves and humans, and he's the one who can broker kind of these deals with Elrond to get them to come help.
And I think the way he brings them in with at the very end of one, like, let's go hunt some orc. It's the catalyst to him maturing out of being a ranger into the cast aside, So they're hunting all those orc, and then they're seeing, okay, it's a lot deeper than just hunting orc, and it's very big. I think being away from the ring and seeing what's going on without being by it is equally as important to see, like, oh yeah, this is pretty crucial. You know what I mean?
Fallout.
We did discuss how the Fellowship of the Ring only lasted for an hour and a half. So it's like, it does show kind of the impact and the scope, and that's with all the side stories of the war on Mordor and the preparations being made in the two towers of Barad-dûr and Orthanc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
I almost forgot the names of the two towers.
I'm very proud.
How embarrassing.
Very good.
Thank you. I think, like, I just want to mention Wormtongue. What a great character to hate. I do like Theoden's arc. I like Éowyn and Éomer, and I like Rohan a lot. And you get the most with kind of Strider and Gimli and Legolas, and this kind of human size action in this movie too. Like, maybe the last Battle of Three, but we'll get there. But there's a lot more.
There's a lot
than
of
we did in the first
politics and
movie.
drama in this one.
That too,
sort
yeah.
of, mixing in the background.
And we know that Sam definitely is a better cook than Éowyn.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then there's at just one point a slow-mo love montage where Elrond is just like shooting you straight down the barrel of the camera, just like telling you, like, love each other. This is what this is about. That part maybe was the stuff I might have taken out, Joe.
That's probably part of the extendos. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about. The meat of it is everybody's in the middle of their journey and slowly maturing. Like we said with Gandalf, Faramir, Sam, and Frodo, like they're learning what is going to happen to Frodo by seeing the state that Smeagol is in, right? And can we trust him? Can we not?
And
we
it's
trust
exciting.
anybody?
And it's exciting growth. It's exciting growth the whole time.
You're on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, the crazy part to me,
Yeah.
it's like almost backstory-ish and character building is kind of like, a steady wave. But no, I'm surfing this thing, baby, like the whole time.
Yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien's a very good writer in the fact that this is almost a road movie at parts. A smart plotting device of the bad guys looking for two hobbits. You're probably wondering why I introduced two idiot hobbits in the first one, aren't you? Ha ha ha! Fucking paid off, you morons. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking great and cool. And then you get, is this the, just a Peter Jackson shout out thing for filmmaking, is this the only movie that has a medieval fantasy Rambo suit-up montage? When Aragorn, before the Battle of the Deep, puts on all his stuff beat for beat, tied on, and it's super close and cool. I mean, it's shot exactly like a Rambo suit-up montage. It's amazing.
It's weird, like we said, the guy who did Freebles and the Frighteners is allowed to take on something of this scale and not only knocks it out of the park, but the tone of every scene. Like, he nails this action trope beat thing. He nails this fear of, like, what about their legs? Like, that scene is so tension-filled and scary.
It is.
Well, and then like the build-up of the Rambo suit-up, and then to just take your foot off the gas with Gimli dropping the shirt to the floor, and then just to get right back into the relationship with those guys,
Chris,
you
to
go
have
epic and then
in the
just level
middle
that out.
of the most serious moment of it, like, shit, these guys might actually not make it, for Gimli to turn and say, throw me. I mean, it's just,
come on.
I could almost just be like, they should hire Peter Jackson to start writing Marvel movies. I'm sorry to keep harping on that, but it's just, he needs to do something like that.
Yeah, I just love the way, like, they're still by themselves. They're by themselves. No one's around, still under his breath. You'll have to toss me. Like, still, no one's around. It's still the shame of it. You can't tell the elf about
No one.
this.
Yeah. And even quiet moments of that build-up, it's a good sword, with the boy, right?
Yeah.
That-
Awesome.
Broom Boy, love him.
yeah, he's
Broom
pretty-
Boy. Star Wars Broom Boy style.
And
Yeah.
the best Star Wars sequel, Last Jedi, is a Broom Boy.
Right.
See, but if you cut Rohan, you don't get Broom Boy.
That's
You
true.
would still. There,
You'll get
there would
Helm's
have,
Deep.
like the plot could go exactly the same. You could just shave some of it off. I guess is what I'm saying. Like I like that we have the stakes of like, oh, we're defending people. This is not just like, oh, we're climbing a mountain anymore. Like there are other parties who are at stake. I think it does a great job world building that out.
And showing maybe how Sauron's forces kind of take control of disparate kingdoms, whether through influence or rings of power. Like you can see the corruption that they're kind of spreading out into the worlds of men right now. So
You guys got old man cursed. How fucking lucky would you be if Gandalf the White showed up and undid it? I don't think it would happen. I think I would just die an old man. I was thinking that watching it.
yeah, right. And that's the moment that he defeats him, because you wouldn't part an old man with his walking stick.
Yeah.
The staff. Like it's so
Yeah.
good.
They took all their stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And then Theoden it's showing, oh, I could do a political kind of thing with other kings. Like again, Aragorn's growing. I mean,
And it's good, like the Gandalf growth of, it's kind of like a coming of age moment where he throws off the black robe. It's like, no, I'm in here. I'm in the front. We're doing this.
Return of the Jedi, baby.
No more hands off, and that was that, which I really like that developmental aspect of it too, as for Gandalf's growth.
Saruman should have been, A little fake out with the Christopher Lee crossfade, it's good stuff. I just like pastrami, to put it simply,
Manja.
That's right.
Stack it higher, baby.
I guess that you said you like Merry and Pippin, Joe. Besides, they survive after meat is back on the menu, and they get into
It's
Fangorn
back
Forest.
on the menu, boys.
Ooh,
Yeah.
if I may,
Uh,
what did you think about the give him some medicine boys scene with those two?
Oh yeah. Do you remember that, Joe?
Oh yeah, that works for me.
Good, yeah.
I figured he just wanted to get a sip of grog, and he was.
Yeah,
faking it.
he's tricking him to
Yeah.
get some of that.
You'd have to hope so.
But their whole thing with essentially trying to get a pacifist group, the Ents, they're kind of older than almost time, and trying to get them, and obviously John Rhys Davies did the voice for this. This is my fun fact for the episode, the only behind the scenes I'll do. They recorded his voice and then played it through a bunch of wooden boxes and baffles, and then on the other end they had a microphone, so it sounds very woody.
That is so
Huh.
fucking cool.
What a nice touch, right? Anyway, so I think he does a great job, even though he wasn't friends with anyone on set, allegedly. He was the grumpiest member of the Fellowship.
Right, I was saying.
He does
The
great as Sigurd.
politics imagery, we were bringing up last time. You were saying World War II, Mike. So
World
the
War II,
the
yeah.
the bodies, that, and when Frodo gets pulled down in the water, we've heard a lot is supposed to be like imagery for the trenches. That J.R.R. came back and he was like, I gotta work through this. But the Ents are, you would say, almost like a UN type figure. It's a criticism of like the long lengths of legislation and bureaucratic conversations opposed to action. And then you just get this
intervention
force blowing up Saruman, basically. It's like, fuck you, you forgot magic trees exist in the wood, dude. You should probably stop cutting down trees.
Yeah, there's a big industrialization kind of note on that. And yeah, Joe, like Merry and Pippin being in there, how do you feel about their handling of that scenario and being, besides the magic water and getting taller?
Being almost, the catalyst.
I'm
The
Wild.
catalyst for the catalyst for do something, trees.
Yeah. Because that's
yeah,
what you
no,
want to
I
catch.
love them.
Yeah.
They're the Scooby and Shaggy of this group, right? Like they're always
Very
just kind of
fair.
off doing their
Love
own
'em.
thing, but at the
Love
end
'em.
they're gonna be there to like unmask the monster. So I love that.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
they're
Very
almost, like,
fair.
hanging
Very
around the
fair
whole time.
analogy.
Damn.
That's so true, Doc.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I'm a fan. And they like you said, the whole thing's about male bonding, right? Like that's every relationship here. These are just two buddies who just like are hanging out, having a good time. Like they're not really like the stakes aren't that high for them, even though I know they are. Like, oh, they're gonna get eaten, but like, no, they're not. They're fine. Like this is a Scooby Doo cartoon when they're on screen.
And a lot of what happened in Fellowship was kind of Mary's fault, fool of a took, and he's going to continue to do that in the next movie, spoiler, but slowly they're kind of realizing the stakes, and I'm sorry, Pippin I get Merry and Pippin confused, as everyone does. Full of a took, but I think Merry, it's Merry who really grows, and this world, you're part of this world, right? And he kind of has that growth in this one.
Yeah.
And they're starting to go from, oh, we're just accidentally here, to maybe we have a role to play even.
Yeah, because his role is...
Everybody learns lessons.
Yeah, his role is just basically, has been, getting into trouble and bailing out the Fool of a Took. And then now it's like, yeah, we got to do bigger things. And he gets fully engaged with the trees. And
Yeah, and then we get
he gets his turn.
Yeah, and even...
It's
and even-
radicalized.
Yeah, and Pippin himself is the one who comes up with the most clever way. The closer we are to danger, the farther we are from harm. It gets him to see the devastation being caused by the wizard who should know better, and then we get trees throwing rocks at Isengard, and it's great. A lot of miniature work, a lot of very cool practical effects stuff with the flooding. It's
so
incredible.
good.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so that's kind of our simultaneous final battle intercut with the Helm's Deep, and the big thing with Helm's Deep is we don't have enough forces.
Yeah.
We've seen Saruman's army of...
Yeah, that was their raptors in the kitchen.
Have faith.
The Jurassic Park reference.
yes. And so then we're wondering, can the allies come and help? Are we going to get any help, or are we on our own? And, so that's kind of the main thrust here. And eventually we do get the elves coming to help, which is not in the book. I haven't read them in a long time, but
Oh,
the
really?
elves coming to help is probably, in addition in the movies, it's maybe an improvement.
Yeah.
Because it sells that idea of leadership.
Yeah, I could definitely respect your point of really enjoying that more, because even though the add-on of the Humans to the Ring is technically like more action-packed and really tense, but seeing them come into their own and do all these things with the trees is I could see where you'd be like really happy with that,
As opposed to horse
as
riding.
opposed to horse riders. So I
mean, it's all the characters we introduced in Fellowship. Like, I'm ride or die with them to the end of this whole thing. So I want Merry and Pippin to get just as much of a payoff as everyone else. But Sean Bean's brother, I just met you.
I mean, right there.
No, you.
And I'm also here.
Yeah, you ain't never been to the Shire.
Yeah, and you're kind of a jerk
Uh,
on first blush, yeah.
He spins, baby. We find out he's abused.
He has a chance to prove his quality. There's a chance. For Faramir, at least. But yeah, I guess we kind of talked Helm's Deep. It's weird, I feel like we've kind of taken a big bite out of this sandwich. We could talk kind of the final battles, any other details that you liked, we can go around. Joe, what's something else you appreciate about this that we haven't done yet?
the Warriors 3, man. I know we touched on the battle, but these movies have melded together in my head, and I think this is when I think of those three characters, it's everything from this movie. But then I thought things that happened in the next battle sequences were in this battle sequence. I remembered the sliding on the shield, way before Link did it. That was super cool. And the keeping the kill count and stuff like that. That all really works for me. So the Warriors 3 are probably a big standout here, but it's also definitely Sam's movie. You have, my buddy's going down a path, and I've seen what the end of that path is, and I'm really fucking nervous about it, but it's not my decision, so I just have to be supportive. I really appreciate all of that drama. So it's tough. I mean, when you look at just the people we came from the beginning with, I'm all for everything that happens in it.
Gotcha. Colin, how about you? How do you feel about Heroes 3?
I have to say the shield sliding thing, too, to bring up real quick. I had said last week, but just to give the full story here. When I saw this in theaters, people clapped at the end of the movies. It wasn't like Marvel movies yet where, everybody was going to just be screaming all the time and getting up and, losing their mind and stuff. Or you wait for a post-cred, and you're like, yo, Spider-Man! And, everybody's, laughing and stuff. None of that. When the shield sliding thing happened, a guy, very naturally, he was not making this up. He just had to stand up, and he just did the shrillest, and he was so excited and so happy, and everyone started screaming and cheering. And, I would say that's not even the Cap getting Mjolnir and Endgame moment. That's Gandalf arriving, at the end at Helm's Deep. But like you said, Mike, nobody even really knew who fucking Legolas was at this point or whatever. He was just a cool character, a character that's kind of up and down in the movie. But I've got a comic here.
Ooh.
I believe Jacob also reads this series. In the 2000s, Foxtrot. I was a big Foxtrot fan. One of their trades, Orlando Bloom ruined everything. Now,
wow.
normies that watch this is to show you the cultural impact of Lord of the Rings at the time. Fellowship was big, totally. By the time this one happened, this is the tie-in for Two Towers. Look at this. It's an audience full of girls going. They had figured out the chemistry of Orlando Bloom. People loved Orlando Bloom. We're going to get to the pirates one day.
Oh, yeah.
But fucking, he was hot. Legolas was a character that just made people lose their minds for some reason. He was never my favorite. I'm just going to say that. But just what he meant for the Lord of the Rings guys, he did so fucking much.
Well, Jacob would be the first to say, Archer dudes are cool.
Archer dudes are cool, guys.
Ladies
But was
love 'em
this
and
the
dudes
birth
wanna
of-
be 'em.
I guess not. Robin Hood would be the birth of like the modern age of bow dudes are cool. But I don't know, like you guys were you watching that Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie a bunch when you were kids?
And there
like,
were
I think Legolas
sexy-
was the one.
There were sexy movie stars in nerd things. People had figured that out, right? You would get like Pam Anderson to appeal to us as dudes. They figured out the formula to get ladies to go to Lord of the Rings. Chris, who is your wife's favorite character, if I had to ask? Is it Legolas, maybe?
It's probably a toss-up between Legolas or Aragorn.
And that's your two draws, yep.
That's your two.
And when you combine both those characters, guess what you get? The CW's Arrow.
Wow. They're big CW guys.
Yeah.
That's a good
Stephen
one.
Amell emerges
I
from the
get it.
shadows.
So they
You
knew.
cold?
So they knew. They knew.
They did a fusion.
Yeah,
on
they
it.
were ahead of the curve. But the idea of someone just like standing up and screaming because it's like so fucking cool and like
The spirit had taken him, Joe. He was
Yeah,
possessed by the One Ring.
It's like
That man
talking in tongues at like a church
that
service.
man loves him some pastrami in that theater.
Yeah, he was here for it, man.
He ordered an extra hot, baby.
Top roast.
Ooh.
So, question though, as someone who's never read these books, at one point in the books, is he like, and
That's
then
the thing.
fucking
Okay.
Legolas is super cool.
Very
and he does
dry
that
like
British
Nicholas.
actor.
Yeah.
So there's this thing called shield sliding, and it's very
Yeah.
dope, as the children would say. No, obviously not.
Someday
but-
they will
but-
snowboard.
To that point, Joe, that is to say, that is a guy who visualized everything he could want from a Lord of the Rings movie. I hope they cast this person. I hope they do that. He couldn't cook up in 1,000 fucking years that scene was going to be in a movie and was going to be a cool action set piece. That's the power of filmmaking. And Peter Jackson and whoever takes on one of these big properties.
No, I read that part in the book. It says, and as the rain fell upon the steps, drenching them, making them slippery, Legolas stepped upon the shield and propelled himself at great speed, and with careful, keen accuracy, took out several orcs on the way down before kick-flipping
That's
it into the
amazing.
neck. Yeah.
Have you ever seen a kickflip?
Do one. Yeah. So that's like Peter Jackson knowing how to elevate the action of the material to something. I think because Tolkien would write about, like, even the Battle of Five Armies, not to jump ahead, it's like, dude falls asleep and then the battle's over.
Jump behind.
He wants to talk about the politics that lead up to it more, the languages and the cultures more, so PJ is able to kind of elevate and bring the cinematic scope, which frighteners to this, how? But thank you for doing it, and that's kind of, Helm's Deep is one of the great cinematic battles ever. I might like it more than Return of the King, but I need to rewatch it, you know what I mean? It's a great battle. like Joe said.
From what I remember, there's the sequel, and they're shooting these so quick, you almost even wonder how he keys into what worked so well. But Mike, isn't there, they track the kill count, he does a badass
He does a
slide.
flip on an elephant, I think.
On an elephant is how he fucking does it,
Because I
Joe.
thought
You're
that was in
so right.
this one.
No.
I think
I like
was
this.
mixing
I
up
like
a
it
bunch of the
natural.
battles together.
Well, it was the cave troll in Fellowship, and then Peter Jackson had a term for it. He called it, he wanted to give Orlando a leggy moment in every movie.
Love it.
Yeah. So there you go. So it is a thing that PJ would plan for.
Yeah.
Another leggy moment in here.
Yes, exactly. So they
bit
just got
leggy.
bigger and bigger. Yes. Oh, man. But,
How about you guys? Mike, what just a standout thing that you didn't get to talking about on this one?
I think just in rewatching it, it was very long, but we were there for the entire thing. Every time we're like, oh man, there's 3 hours left. We're like, there's 3 hours left. You know, like, let's keep going.
Hey!
This
Yeah.
is great. You know, more for
This is the best.
But I think I kind of covered a lot of the redemption arcs. Like, you know, I just wanted to make sure we covered Faramir and Theoden coming back and taking over his kingdom. I think that's the theme of this part of the book, is about redemption and hope, right, essentially. And so this is, we'll see if it's my favorite, but I could watch the extended over and over again. I really like the pathos with Faramir, and I do like Eowyn more because of where she's going in her next movie. But I like where we're at. So we'll talk about that next time. But Chris, how about you? Anything we didn't
Set up
kind of
Miranda
mention?
Otto.
Okay. We talked about memes, did we not?
Oh, we did.
We did talk about
Ooh,
memes.
rack them up.
Okay, so we're talking about the Warriors 3, kick in the helmet. How can you're gonna you're gonna take something that's supposed to be boring, and we already know the payoff because we know the plot armor that they have, but just after seeing them get away from the orcs and then seeing them retrace and discuss, because they don't know, retrace it through something that's supposed to be boring, him just doing the tracking and making that exciting, that baffles me how that can engage me, and that is something that should be boring. Oh, I'm going to put my ear to the ground and show you how I track stuff, and then so you get a little bit of insight of the Numenorian senses, and on top of that, how, you know, him using the ranging. And it should be boring, like this, we're just going to walk and try to find these guys. Maybe they're dead, maybe they're not, because they find the burnt up, you know, scabbard and everything. And, like, that should be boring, but it's not, even though you know the payoff. And for me, I guess that's something that is really extra for me, that it's like, oh, yeah, like he was saying, it's one of those moments, like, we still got 3 hours to go. Oh, but we still got 3 hours to go.
Yeah.
But even more than that, you've got 4 more hours to go. Chris does
right?
does the
Almost 5.
tease at the end to set up for the next one. Oh, she can kill the hobbitses. That's what we'll do. We'll take her to her. Does that work on you?
I think it works. It works on people that are smart, you know, that are in the know of Shelob. But if I think for maybe someone that's just coming into it, you know, I could see it hooking you in, because it's like, you know, you haven't really seen a menacing female presence thus far. You've seen power. You know, you've seen power.
Cool thing to say.
From both of the elves
to set
and the
up.
women. And you know, and you get you know, some of the Helm's Deep stuff, but you never get that, you know, is there menacing females in Mordor? And man, Shelob's just like she's a big evil, and just for no reason, you know, like just because of just being in the presence of Mordor just makes you like that.
Joe.
Yeah, see, this is another one of those points where, like, I thought the movie ended with Gollum being like, tricked you guys, you're screwed, big fire, and then like running
Take it
away.
away.
So I thought we were going to see it, not just like the guy in the corner who is very obviously doing something sketchy, talking to himself super sketchy, and then coming over and be like, hey guys, you didn't just see me doing that, right? Anyway, let's go this way instead of that way. I'd be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not doing that. I just saw you.
We're not going with you. Yeah.
And I feel, but the setup for that is with the trust is, you know, again, them conveying to Faramir, we're bound, you know. So I think it makes it that blind trust that much more important, knowing that, hey, you know, Gollum's been, you know, he's been risking it all for us. We haven't done anything for this dude. We've just been dragging him around on a rope, and then the big payoff, and then it's too little, too late.
But I think it's such a good payoff, Chris, because the whole thing is the shadow and the light. You know, not only am I struggling to put this fucking ring on, but Sam, don't you see inside that I'm keeping this fucking worthless thing around that Gandalf told me was better off dead in the last movie because I'm so scared of turning into this little fucking thing. I need to keep it around in the same way that, like, an alcoholic needs, like, that one bottle in the corner that he knows how much is in it. It's locked away in a thing, and it's just there, man. It's just fucking there.
Well,
Just
like
love
the
it.
temptation of power, and like even the trust that they're building too, over the kind of trauma they're suffering due to this object. They both suffered because of it. And then the look of betrayal on Smeagol's face when they get captured by Faramir. He's like, "Don't struggle, Smeagol. They won't hurt you. And then they beat the shit out of him. You understand why Gollum's able to come back around that tree. They hate you, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
damn, that's
It's-
character development,
It's
dude.
the seduction,
It is.
the seduction
It is.
the seduction of the escape mechanism. Like you said, you know that bottle's there, type of deal. Like
You should kill him and takes it, precious, right? And so you go from sympathizing to knowing it's a threat. We didn't see the spider, but I think it is a good setup for the next movie. And
I did like it because it teased a menacing female. I liked it. I did.
Yes.
I dug it.
I think that's neat.
And we spend a whole movie wondering, is Smeagol trustworthy? Now we know definitively, no, he is
Yeah.
not. Yes. And I
He's
think that
lost his mind.
Again. Where is
I
my
wonder if anyone
mind?
will ever push him into a volcano.
Yes. We'll find out next week. Yeah, Lord of the Ring. But I guess that's pretty much it for Two Tower. We only did 25% of the runtime. But how about we get over a little closer to Mount Doom while we talk our final thoughts? Let's get out of Osgiliath. These humans are a little weird. And let's do last thoughts on the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings. Coming up next.
We're back. We're wrapping things up here. We're taking the ring off. We're putting it away. We're letting somebody else hold it for a minute while we talk our final thoughts here on the Two Towers in our special months-long coverage of the Lord of the Rings franchise. I'll kick it off. I'll just say we didn't even talk about Frodo's little last fight there. The Nazgul, a little small personal flying dragon, has probably been on my mind since I have seen this movie or read this book. I almost wonder if that's why I started reading the Dragon Riders of Pern as a young man, too. I love it. I just think they're so cool. I got to give them a shout out.
Oh, the Fell Beast. That's the closest thing we get to a dragon on this. Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. We got a little dragon in this one.
It's all right. It's all right. Little dragon.
A little draggy.
Before final thoughts, I forgot. Yeah, we do need to mention the most common piece of trivia on the internet, which is when he kicks that helmet, as you said, he breaks his toe for real, and that's a scream of anguish of a broken toe. So everybody knows it. I'm telling you again.
Oh yeah,
Don't at me.
Why I mentioned memes?
Yeah.
The helmet kick.
Yeah. But it's okay. Potatoes. So I guess let me just do my final thoughts on this one. I guess we'll go around, and we'll leave best for last, guest for last.
You got it.
And then we can do that. So we watched it together. We kind of grew up. When you came back, we watched them together. Whenever you're in town, it's like a Thanksgiving kind of thing. Like it feels like that time. So that's why we're watching them now. And I love Two Towers. Like you said, it's the meat of the sandwich. And I like all of it because of how Faramir, if he's not there, it doesn't explain why Gollum becomes more evil. If Eowyn's not there, it doesn't explain why maybe Aragorn's considering his place. And could I just be a normal dude with a normal lady, or should I do this elf thing? Do I have a bigger responsibility? There's people being pushed in directions. Should I keep being racist towards elves and dwarves or not? Maybe we can be friends, Everyone's growing. And
You
Sam's
can't
speech-
cut a minute of it, Joe.
Not a single minute, especially the
Not a
salt part.
frame.
Because I need the salt on my sandwich, too. Salted pastrami. And the last thing I want to mention is Sam's speech at the end about the great stories, Mr. Frodo. You forgot one of the chief characters. That is so touching, and it kind of is the message of hope.
Sad.
It's crazy sad, but he almost stabs Sam. That is a very important beat that we glossed over. That is such a powerful moment. My Sam. So I love Two Towers. We'll see how it lands in the rankings once we finish Return of the King again, which is almost a 5-hour extended, Joe, if you want to sign up for that. But that's my last thoughts. What are yours, Joe?
I didn't grow up in a Hobbit household. I've seen these movies.
They're too
It was
small.
impossible to escape these
I wouldn't
movies.
fit.
Fantasy is, not my thing. But when it's great, it's great. And obviously, Lord of the Rings trilogy is great. My memory of Two Towers definitely failed me. I thought all the things that I loved about it were actually either at the tail end of the last one or the beginning of this one, or just don't even exist. So I will go ahead and say this is the most excited I've been for a rewatch with anything we've done on the podcast. Any of the Harry Potter movies, any of the Star Wars movies, because those movies I've definitely seen more than I've seen Lord of the Rings. So I'm really excited to watch Return of the King. That's my biggest takeaway. Is I
And
can't
you
wait
haven't
to,
seen The
to
Hobbits.
wrap this one up.
Oh,
Yeah, and I haven't seen The Hobbits. You're right. I've never seen any of those.
It'll be crazy.
That's amazing. They had just taken him to
I'm
Isengard.
doing it. I'm locked in.
But let's see where Peter Jackson takes him after Guillermo del Toro doesn't want to do the project anymore. And time's a ticking. But that'll be a tale for another time. Colin, Two Towers, last thoughts.
I will say one more thought. It's just kind of an interesting bit of trivia too, Mike. And it kind of buys into something I said last week. This is on hometheaterforum.com, a 2013 website. Now, what did I say? What were white guys into in 2012 and 2013? Home stereo
theaters,
systems, setting up home theater
Surround
systems,
sound.
right?
Yeah.
A forum for this. That answers a question I had, because I hit this into Google. Did you guys stay for the whole length of the movie? What happens at the last 15 plus minutes of the film?
That was
Did you guys watch all the way through?
This, yes.
No?
An insane listing of names that says, to the fans. And it just lists out a billion names in a row. And I thought, wow, how many people can you name for this? It's over 15 minutes long, guys. And you go, really? Here's what I found. Question, Johnny K. on hometheaterforum.com community board. At the end of the special extended edition of Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring DVD, and the Two Towers, there is a moment that says, charter members of the Lord of the Ring official fan club, we thank you. Then they name 9,000 charter members in this fan club. Can there possibly be that many people? Did they all contribute to this movie? I was blown away. Here I'm thinking, I'll watch this. How many are there? Well, it went on for 20 minutes. That's right, folks. Time code started, club credits 1:42:32. Time code ended, club credits 2 hours, 2 minutes, 8 seconds. That's approximately 5 names per line, 15 lines displayed every 10 seconds.
Oh, man.
That is 8,820 names shown on the screen at once. Over the course of, like I said, over 15 minutes. I did some research and said, what does it mean to be a special member of the Lord of the Ring fan club?
These charter members.
All I could find, guys, is if after you guys saw the first couple, if you paid $40, you joined the Lord of the Rings fan club, and it's only for the extended editions that you're inserted at the end of the credits.
Whoa.
I don't know what else you get it. I don't know what else these people got from it other than to say, like, I fucking love Lord of the Rings. Fuck you guys. My name is in the credits. I think that's really cool. I don't know. It blew my mind.
Yeah, I think Jacob might have mentioned, but someone mentioned on Fellowship, yeah, like the credits were unusually long. Like the runtime.
Yeah, I didn't sit through the credits. No.
I let them play, and I remember seeing a giant block of text, but I missed the charter members. But yeah, I guess all.
I wondered who they were. I scrolled through over to it. I saw the block, and I thought they can't all be part of some third crew. I almost wondered if it was like the 501st, like the Star Wars, where it's like the guys who dressed up. Like, was Helm's Deep just a bunch of nerds? Like, you know, when they do the montage of, like, some of them have seen too many winters, some too few. Yeah. Like, are those just, like, you know, like, local New Zealand weirdos? I don't know.
Well, the horse riders are. They got every horse rider they could find, and I think it was...
Wow!
And they even got some from international. I know they put women in beards and stuff for, like, the Rohirrim, because they didn't have enough trained horse riders, so there you go. That's it. Chris, is that Colin? Anything else on your final thoughts?
No, that's it. I love you. I love you, Lord of the Rings. This one's the best. Mark my words.
All right, mock me. Chris, how about you? Final thoughts.
I'm with you. I love all the meat, but there is one thing we didn't talk about. I'm glad it gets to be my final thought. How about that score, baby?
Oh yeah, Howard score.
It's really hitting this time.
I'm a soundtrack nerd, and yes, dude, like it. I mean, and that's another thing it's just going to stand the test of time with how iconic the score is, and it just really sets the tone for every little thing, even the boring things. Who knows, just adding music to these guys searching for stuff, I'm here, I'm amped for it. And I really love the music to it, and like you said, I think because people were putting together sound systems that they really went all in on this soundtrack. And I gotta say, the score is very incredible, and I agree, this big giant stack of pastrami is my favorite, and I'll eat it every day till it's like, great. I love it.
Oh, he's sick. Doesn't matter.
It's too much pastrami.
How many did you eat, Pip? 4.
Meat's back on the menu, boys.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
very nice.
And then once you have your sound system, you can flex it on Thanksgiving when the family comes over.
Yeah.
Check this out. I got Lord of the Rings. I think that theory is starting to
Yeah.
hold true. Yeah.
You know,
the classic,
We had,
then.
we had a theatrical. We found out it comes in pints. Had to have it.
I'm getting one. Yeah.
Had to have it.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this.
Thank
This
you
has
for
been
having me.
awesome.
Thank you, dude.
Always,
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure. With
Brought
you guys
love, brought
anytime.
passion to it. We really
Yes.
appreciate it.
And Jacob will be back next week. He is going to watch Two Towers. We may have already. He's participating. He'll be back. So basically, the Return of the King, everyone. You
The
know,
Return of the King.
True.
He'll be back.
He was partying with the Ents.
I will
he
be
found
present.
that long
Yes.
bottom. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, I will be listening. I
Yes.
will be listening.
Yes.
In spirit. Listeners, we appreciate you listening along in spirit. Hopefully you're doing it more than in spirit. You're hitting that rate, review, subscribe. You're leaving behind some comments. That helps us and algorithms and all that bullshit. Go to YouTube, watch our film versions. We love you. We appreciate you. And happy Lord of the Rings to you with your hosts. I'm going to say like the Colin. I'm going to be bad. I'm going to work now.
I'm going to stick with Micah Gorn, and I will pod as one of them.
Wow, leg Joe lost, man. I didn't think of that to use it one time.
Well, I guess I'll finish off with I got the American Freedom shirt with Tina, so I'll just go with Free Beard.
God bless you,
Oh,
Freebeard.
there we go.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Normies, so much for joining us on this episode of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. Catch you next week for The Return of the King. Some say this pod needs no king, but I say it does. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Look to the east on the 5th day and a podcast will be born.
The wizard should know better. Bye.